The Devourer main fleet arrived exactly 2 weeks later, just as Admiral Lisa Morgan had predicted. This time they came with everything they had. Over 50,000 ships emerged from faster-than-light travel in a coordinated assault that darkened the space around Council Station Prime. The sheer number of vessels was overwhelming. It was more ships than the Council had seen in their entire recorded history. The Council evacuated all non-essential personnel from the station. Some Council members argued loudly for immediate surrender. They believed the humans could not possibly hold against such impossible numbers. They prepared speeches of capitulation and started negotiating surrender terms among themselves. Admiral Lisa Morgan proved them wrong. "We are not just defending a space station," she explained during the final briefing before battle. Her senior officers sat around the conference table, their faces serious but determined. "We are defending an idea, the idea that humanity keeps its word no matter the cost. The idea that we do not abandon our allies when things get difficult. The idea that the galaxy has real defenders now, not just diplomats and politicians." The human fleet had grown since the first battle. Earth had sent reinforcements through the jump gates. Another 8 battleships arrived, bringing the total to 20. 100 additional cruisers joined the fleet. 3 massive carrier groups brought hundreds of fighter craft. The fleet now numbered over 600 combat vessels, each one built for war. More importantly, the humans had brought something new, something they had hoped never to use. The weapon had no official designation in the reports. The engineers who built it called it Project Sundial. It was humanity's ultimate deterrent, designed during the darkest days of the Civil War. A device so powerful that using it had been forbidden by international treaty. Until now, Captain Pete Johnson studied the technical specifications with a mixture of awe and horror. His experienced eyes understood the implications immediately. This device will destabilize the entire sector's space-time fabric. It could have unpredictable consequences. For about 6 hours, confirmed the chief engineer, Commander Sharon Mills. She was a small woman with graying hair and hands scarred from years of technical work, long enough to trap the Devourer fleet in normal space. "They will not be able to jump away or escape. Then we systematically destroy every single ship." "And if the device does not work as designed?" asked Commander Amy Walsh, voicing the concern everyone felt. "Then we do this the hard way," Lisa replied calmly. "Ship to ship, gun to gun, until either they are all dead or we are. But the device will work. Human engineering always works when it matters most. That is what makes us dangerous." The Devourer fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect coordination. Their timing was precise, clearly the result of careful planning. They had learned from their previous defeat. Their formation was more spread out now, designed to minimize the effectiveness of area effect weapons like the Nova charges. They approached from multiple vectors simultaneously, trying to divide the human fleet's attention. It did not matter. The humans had adapted too. The EDS Retribution, Admiral Morgan's flagship, activated Project Sundial. The device was massive, taking up 3 entire decks of the battleship. It hummed with barely contained power as it charged to full capacity. Then it fired. Space itself seemed to ripple and distort. Waves of twisted reality spread outward from the device like ripples on a pond. The effect was invisible to the naked eye, but devastating to faster-than-light technology. Devourer ships attempting to jump away found their drives failing catastrophically. Quantum tunnels collapsed before they could fully form. Some ships were torn apart by the spatial distortions. The rest were trapped, unable to escape. "All ships," Admiral Lisa Morgan's voice rang out across every communication channel in the fleet. "Execute Battle Plan Omega. No survivors, no mercy. End this." What followed was less a battle and more a systematic execution. The human fleet split into hunter-killer groups. Each one assigned a specific segment of the Devourer fleet to destroy. The battleships formed the anvil, their massive armor and overwhelming firepower holding key positions. The cruisers and destroyers served as the hammer, striking from unexpected angles with devastating precision. The coordination was perfect. Every ship knew exactly where to be and when. The tactics had been practiced hundreds of times in simulation. Now they executed flawlessly in real combat. The Space Marines deployed in force, targeting the largest Devourer vessels. Sergeant Carl Hughes led his squad toward a massive world ship, an organic construct the size of a small moon that housed tens of thousands of Devourer warriors. The assault shuttles cut through space, their point defense systems destroying incoming fire. "Remember your training," Carl shouted to his Marines as they prepared to breach the hull. His voice was calm despite the chaos around them. "These creatures adapt fast, so keep moving, keep shooting, and do not give them time to think or react." The Marines cut through the organic hull with plasma torches, then poured inside. The interior of the world ship was dark and humid, like being inside a living creature. Because it was a living creature. The Devourers grew their ships rather than building them. The fighting was brutal in close quarters. The Devourers had prepared defenses this time, understanding now that the humans would board their vessels. Armored warriors waited in ambush points. Bioplasma weapons fired from concealed positions. Traps and acid sprays tried to slow the Marine advance, but they had made a critical miscalculation. They assumed human Marines were like other species soldiers, beings who could be intimidated, who would break under psychological pressure, who would hesitate when faced with horror. Human Marines had been forged in Earth's harshest environments. They had trained in deserts where the heat could kill in minutes. They had trained in Arctic conditions where exposed skin froze instantly. They had trained in deep jungles where everything was poisonous. They had been shaped by a planet that demanded excellence or death. Private Danny Brooks took a bioplasma burst to his shoulder. The round penetrated his armor and burned deep into muscle tissue. The pain was excruciating. He switched his rifle to his offhand without missing a step and kept firing. "Brooks is hit," someone shouted over the squad channel. "Brooks is fine," Danny growled back through gritted teeth. His armor's medical system injected painkillers and sealed the wound automatically. "Just makes me angry now." The Marines fought room by room, corridor by corridor, clearing the world ship with methodical efficiency. Behind them, demolition experts planted nuclear charges that would turn the massive vessel into an expanding cloud of superheated gas. Nothing would remain. No evidence. No survivors. No chance of regeneration. In space above, the battle reached its crescendo. The Devourer fleet, unable to escape, fought with desperate ferocity. They threw everything at the human lines. Bioweapons designed to eat through ship hulls. Swarm missiles that replicated themselves. Suicide ships loaded with antimatter explosives. The human fleet held its ground. Point defense systems worked overtime, destroying thousands of incoming threats. Damaged ships fell back to secondary positions while fresh vessels moved forward. The formation never broke. The advance never stopped. Captain Nicole Stevens commanded a task force of 30 destroyers on the fleet's left flank. She saw an opportunity and took it without hesitation. A Devourer carrier group was pursuing a damaged human cruiser, thinking they had found easy prey. "All ships, emergency maneuver Delta 7, Nicole ordered calmly. "Execute now." Her destroyers scattered in perfect coordination, then executed simultaneous emergency jumps. They reappeared behind the Devourer carrier group, weapons already firing. The enemy found themselves surrounded and caught in crossfire from 3 human battleships that had been waiting for exactly this moment. "Fire everything," Nicole ordered. Her voice remained calm despite the chaos. "Leave nothing intact." The Devourer carrier group lasted 37 seconds before the last ship exploded. Similar scenes played out across the massive battlefield. Human tactical flexibility, born from centuries of fighting each other in countless wars, proved superior to Devourer swarm tactics. Human engineering, built on principles of redundancy and overdesign, withstood damage that would have destroyed Council vessels instantly. And human determination, the simple refusal to quit that had taken them from primitive hunters to starfarers, proved absolutely unbreakable. 6 hours into the battle, the last Devourer command ship exploded in a flash of nuclear fire. The destruction triggered a cascade failure in whatever remained of their fleet coordination. The few surviving ships scattered randomly, attempting to flee in normal space without their faster-than-light drives. They did not get far. Human cruisers hunted them down with cold precision, destroying each one methodically. No survivors, no mercy, no second chances. When it finally ended, the silence was deafening. The Galactic Council convened 3 days after the battle. The massive chamber, usually filled with diplomatic chatter and political debate, sat in uncomfortable silence. The council members were still processing what they had witnessed. Admiral Lisa Morgan stood at the center of the chamber, presenting her after-action report with the same calm professionalism she showed during combat. Total enemy casualties, 4,216 confirmed kills, Lisa stated matter-of-factly. Human casualties. 3 destroyers damaged, 147 personnel killed in action, 233 wounded. The enemy fleet has retreated to the outer rim. We estimate they will regroup within 2 weeks and attempt another assault. Bexthar, his crystalline form dimmer than usual, spoke carefully. His voice carried undertones of fear and confusion. Admiral, the Council wishes to express its deepest gratitude. You saved countless lives today. However, we must address certain concerns about your methods of warfare. Methods? Lisa's eyebrow raised slightly. The level of destruction you inflicted was extreme, Bexthar explained. The Nova charges alone violated 17 Council conventions on ethical warfare. Your Marines' assault on the command ships was unnecessarily brutal. Your entire tactical doctrine appears designed not to defeat an enemy, but to annihilate them completely. Lisa was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was cold and hard. Ambassador, humanity has fought exactly one major war since we achieved spaceflight. It was a civil conflict. 3 billion people died. We nearly destroyed our entire civilization. Do you know what we learned from that? The Council representatives remained silent, waiting. We learned that wars are won by the side that refuses to lose, Lisa continued. We learned that showing mercy to your enemy during combat is cruelty to your own soldiers. We learned that if you are going to fight, you fight to win decisively and overwhelmingly. A wounded enemy is more dangerous than a dead one. These are not pleasant truths, but they are truths nonetheless. A delegate from the chorus species spoke up, their multiple mouths creating an eerie harmony. But the Council has maintained peace for 3,000 years without such violence. Surely there are better ways to resolve conflicts? No, General Kyle Martinez interjected, standing beside Lisa. His scarred face showed the cost of his experience. You maintained peace because no one threatened you seriously. The moment real danger appeared, the moment someone wanted to actually destroy you, what did you do? You called the barbarians to save you. The truth of his words hung heavy in the chamber. Several Council members looked away, unable to meet his eyes. Captain Nicole Stevens, present as a tactical advisor, added her perspective. The Council's fleets are beautiful. I mean that sincerely. Your ships are works of art, your formations are elegant. Your weapons are designed to disable rather than destroy. It is admirable. But art does not win wars. Engineering wins wars. Mathematics wins wars. The cold calculation of force applied with maximum efficiency wins wars. We are not asking you to become like us, Lisa said, her tone softening slightly. But you need to understand what you are asking when you request military assistance. War is not a game. It is not a political maneuver or a negotiation. It is organized violence with a specific purpose, and that purpose is to make the enemy stop fighting by any means necessary. The Council's military advisor, a grizzled member of the Tarkonian species named Zeph, finally spoke. He had remained silent throughout the debate, studying the human reports with increasing interest. Zeph was old, one of the few Council members who remembered what war really meant. Admiral Morgan is correct, Zeph said bluntly. His voice carried the weight of authority. The Council has forgotten what war truly is. We have hidden behind our treaties and economic power for so long that we have lost the capacity to defend ourselves. The humans have not forgotten. Their entire fleet doctrine, their training methods, their equipment design, all of it is built on painful lessons learned through actual combat. They know how to fight because they have fought. They are savages, hissed a Vrelian representative, their scales rippling with disgust. No, Zeph replied firmly. They are survivors. And right now, we need survivors more than we need civilization. Civilization means nothing if you are dead. The debate continued for many hours. Arguments went back and forth. Some Council members wanted to send the humans home immediately. Others recognized the reality of their situation. Finally, necessity won over principle. The Council voted to authorize full cooperation with Earth's military forces. They granted humanity access to all Council technology and resources in exchange for continued defense against the Devourers. But something fundamental had changed in the relationship. The Council no longer saw humanity as primitive newcomers who needed guidance toward enlightenment. They saw humans as something far more unsettling, a mirror reflecting what the Council had once been millions of years ago, and what they might need to become again to survive. Meanwhile, in the human fleet's ready room, the senior officers held their own private meeting. The mood was different here, more casual but also more honest. They are scared of us, Commander Amy Walsh observed, leaning back in her chair. Maybe more scared than they are of the Devourers. Can you blame them? Captain Pete Johnson replied. We rolled up with enough firepower to destroy a continent, and then proceeded to demonstrate exactly how to use it effectively. From their perspective, we are just another existential threat. We might be friendly now, but what about later? Admiral Lisa Morgan nodded slowly, acknowledging the concern. Which is exactly why we need to be careful moving forward. Yes, we are here to fight. Yes, we will do whatever is necessary to win this war. But we cannot let them think we are conquerors. The moment they fear us more than they fear the enemy, this alliance falls apart. So what is the plan? Asked Captain Linda Carter, who had distinguished herself during the battle. We win this war for them, Lisa said firmly. Decisively. Brutally if necessary. But when it is over, we go home. We prove that humanity can be trusted with power because we do not seek to keep it. We prove that we fight to protect, not to conquer. And if they try to restrict us again after this is over? General Kyle Martinez asked, voicing the concern many felt. What if they go back to treating us like dangerous children once we save them? Lisa smiled grimly. Then we remind them, politely and diplomatically, that they have seen what happens to species that threaten us. But let us hope it does not come to that. Let us hope they are smart enough to learn the right lessons from this experience. Outside the conference room, in the enlisted quarters, Sergeant Carl Hughes and his Marine squad were conducting maintenance on their powered armor. The work was routine but necessary. Good maintenance saved lives in combat. A young private named Danny Brooks looked up from cleaning his rifle. Sarge, why do you think the aliens are so freaked out by us? We are just doing what soldiers do. Carl considered the question while checking his armor's power cells. He had been a Marine for 15 years and had learned to think carefully before speaking to young soldiers, because they have never had to fight for their survival, kid. They grew up in a galaxy where talking solved problems, where economic pressure and political maneuvering were the weapons of choice. We grew up on a planet where nature tried to kill us every single day, where predators hunted us, where weather could wipe out entire communities. We had to learn to fight back or die. It is just different perspectives shaped by different experiences. You think we will be able to go back to normal after this? Danny asked quietly. Define normal, Carl replied with a wry smile. But yeah, we will manage. Humans are good at adapting. It is kind of our thing. We adapted to every environment on Earth. We will adapt to this too. Above them, through the viewport, the stars gleamed cold and distant. Somewhere out there, the Devourer fleet was regrouping, planning their next assault, preparing to return with even greater numbers, and the human fleet was ready and waiting for them. Admiral Lisa Morgan stood on the bridge of the EDS Retribution and stared out at the aftermath. The debris field stretched for millions of kilometers in every direction. 50,000 enemy ships reduced to twisted metal and frozen organic matter. The largest space battle in recorded galactic history was over. Human casualties were severe but far less than expected. 12 ships lost completely, their crews dying when reactor cores breached or hulls catastrophically failed. 36 ships badly damaged and limping back to repair stations. 3,842 dead. Another 6,000 wounded, some critically. It was the most lopsided victory in galactic history. 50,000 enemy ships destroyed in exchange for 12 friendly vessels. The numbers were almost unbelievable. The council representatives returned to their station cautiously, uncertain what they would find. They half expected the human fleet to have turned the station's weapons against them, to have claimed council space as conquered territory. That is what any logical military force would do after such a victory. That is what history taught them about powerful conquerors. Instead, they found the human fleet holding position with weapons powered down, waiting quietly for instructions. Admiral Morgan, Vexthar transmitted, his crystalline voice subdued and humble. The Council wishes to express its deepest gratitude. You have saved not just our civilization, but possibly the entire galaxy. We are forever in humanity's debt. Whatever you ask, we will provide. You do not owe us a debt, Ambassador, Lisa replied firmly. You owe us respect. Respect for our methods and our culture. Respect for our right to defend ourselves as we see fit. Respect for our sovereignty and our choices. You have it, Vexthar said immediately without consulting the other council members. All restrictions on human expansion are lifted effective immediately. You will have full membership in the Galactic Council, with all accompanying rights and privileges. If you wish it, we would offer you command of all Council military forces. We do not want command of your forces, Lisa said clearly. We want partnership. We will help you rebuild your military capabilities. We will train your soldiers and share our defensive technology. We will teach you what we know about warfare. But the defense of the galaxy needs to be a shared responsibility, not just humanity's burden alone. The Council agreed without debate. They understood now that they had no choice. The galaxy had changed. The age of peace through diplomacy alone was over. Real threats existed in the darkness between stars. Survival required strength. In the weeks and months that followed, the galaxy began to transform. Human military advisors worked with Council species to develop actual defensive capabilities for the first time in millennia. It was difficult work. Many Council species struggled with the very concept of organized violence. The idea of training soldiers to kill efficiently went against thousands of years of cultural evolution. But they learned. They had to learn. The Devourers might return someday. Other threats might emerge from unknown regions of space. The galaxy needed defenders, not just politicians. Human engineers helped design new ships for the Council races. The vessels balanced the Council's love of beauty and elegance with practical military requirements. They would never be as brutally efficient as human warships, but they could at least defend themselves now. Space Marines like Sergeant Carl Hughes trained the first generation of non-human soldiers in 3,000 years. Carl found himself teaching aliens how to hold weapons, how to move in combat formations, how to maintain discipline under fire. It was strange work, teaching species that still flinched at the sound of gunfire. But some of them learned quickly. Some showed real promise. The key is not being fearless, Carl explained to a class of Tarkonian recruits. Fear keeps you alive. Fear makes you cautious. The key is learning to function despite fear. You do your job even when you are terrified. That is what separates soldiers from civilians. The transformation was not easy or quick. Cultural changes never are. But slowly, gradually, the Council species began to understand. They began to see that peace was not the absence of conflict, but the presence of those willing to defend against conflict. Admiral Lisa Morgan returned to Earth 6 months after the final battle. She traveled on a civilian transport rather than a warship, wanting to slip home quietly without fanfare. That plan failed immediately. Word of the fleet's return had spread. Millions of people gathered to welcome the heroes home. The celebration lasted for days. There were parades in every major city. Medals and honors were distributed to the surviving crew members. Memorials were built for those who died defending alien worlds they had never seen. Lisa gave a speech at the Global Assembly, Earth's governing body. The speech was broadcast across all human space and translated into dozens of alien languages. She had written it herself during the long journey home, trying to find the right words to explain what humanity had accomplished. We went to the stars hoping to find enlightened civilizations that could teach us to be better than we were, Lisa said, standing at the podium and looking out at millions of faces watching on screens worldwide. We hoped to leave behind our violent past and embrace a more peaceful future. Instead, we found civilizations that had forgotten how to defend themselves. We found species that had grown soft and vulnerable during long ages of uncontested peace. So we taught them, not because we wanted to spread our culture or impose our will on others, not because we thought our way was superior or more enlightened. We taught them because survival is a lesson worth sharing, because knowing how to fight does not make you a barbarian. It makes you capable of protecting what matters. The galaxy cowered in horror when our battleships arrived. They saw our weapons and called us primitive. They saw our tactics and called us brutal. They saw our determination and called us frightening. Maybe they were right. Maybe we are all of those things. But when monsters came from the darkness, when entire civilizations faced extinction, the galaxy did not call the diplomats. They did not call the economists or the philosophers. They called us. Humanity's greatest strength has always been our adaptability, our refusal to quit even when the situation seems hopeless, our ability to survive anything the universe throws at us and come back stronger. We took those strengths to the stars, and we used them to protect others who could not protect themselves. That is not barbarism. That is not cruelty. That is humanity at its best. The galaxy learned something important in these past months. Peace requires strength. Civilization requires defenders. Sometimes the scariest thing in the universe is someone willing to fight for others, without asking for anything in return, someone willing to stand between the innocent and the darkness. We are those someones. We have always been those someones throughout our entire history, and we are just getting started. The crowd erupted in applause. The sound echoed across the planet and out into space, carried by 1,000 broadcasts. In orbit above Earth, the EDS Retribution underwent repairs and resupply. The massive battleship bore scars from the battle, armor plating torn and scorched, but it remained functional. On its hull, the crew had painted 50,000 small marks, one for each enemy ship destroyed in the final battle. Below that, they had added a single line of text, simple words that carried profound meaning. We are the storm. We are the shield. We are Earth. Other ships in the fleet adopted similar markings. The word spread throughout human space, becoming an unofficial motto for Earth's military forces. Eventually, even the Council species learned the phrase. They spoke it with a mixture of respect and lingering fear. The galaxy had cowered in horror when humanity's battleships arrived, their weapons ready and their determination absolute. Now those same species slept soundly at night, knowing that somewhere in the darkness human ships stood watch, knowing that if threats emerged from the unknown regions of space, Earth would answer the call, knowing that humanity kept its promises, no matter the cost. The age of peace through diplomacy alone was over. The age of defended peace had begun, and humanity, the species the Council had once dismissed as barbaric and primitive, had become the galaxy's unlikely guardians. They had proven that civilization was not measured by how long you avoided conflict. It was measured by what you were willing to fight for and who you were willing to protect. The galaxy understood that now. Finally, after 10,000 years of soft peace, they understood what true strength meant, and they were grateful for it. The jump gate near Council Station Prime suddenly activated without any warning. Energy readings went crazy. Every sensor and alarm in the sector started screaming. The Council's monitors had never seen power levels this high before. Station. Operators grabbed their communication devices and shouted warnings to everyone nearby. Then the first Earth battleship came through. The EDS Retribution emerged from the quantum tunnel like a monster rising from deep water. The ship was massive, bigger than anything the Council had ever built. Its hull was painted matte black, covered in thick armor plates that seemed to drink in the light around it. Weapons covered every surface. Railguns, missile pods, plasma cannons, and other systems that the Council's computers could not even identify. The ship looked like it was built for one purpose only, to destroy anything that got in its way. Behind it came another battleship, then another, then another. 12 battleships total pushed through the gate, each one a floating fortress of destruction. Following them came 40 cruisers, their sleek hulls packed with weapons and sensors. 70 destroyers appeared next, smaller but faster, built to hunt and kill. Finally came over 200 support ships carrying ammunition, fuel, medical supplies, and repair equipment. The Council sensor operators stared at their screens with their mouths open. Some of them started shaking. They had never seen a fleet like this. They had never imagined anyone would build ships like this. Admiral Lisa Morgan's face appeared on every screen in the command center. She looked calm and professional, like this was just another day at work. "This is Admiral Lisa Morgan of the Earth Defense Force," she said clearly. "We received your request for military assistance. We are here to help. Please transmit all enemy position data and tactical information immediately." Bexathar was in the Council's command center watching the human fleet arrive. He found his voice after a long moment of shocked silence. His crystal body was pulsing with colors that showed fear and confusion. "Admiral, we expected a small force to assist us," Vexthar said weakly. "What you have brought is an invasion fleet. This is more firepower than the entire Council Navy possesses." "No, Ambassador," Lisa replied with ice in her voice. "This is a fraction of Earth's defensive capabilities. This is what we send when we are being friendly neighbors. Now, are you going to give us the tactical data, or should we turn around and go home?" The Council scrambled to send the information she requested. Captain Pete Johnson commanded the EDS Retribution. He was a veteran of the Civil War, a man who had seen combat more times than he could count. He studied the tactical display showing the approaching Devourer fleet. His experienced eyes noticed things immediately. "They are used to easy victories," Pete muttered to his executive officer, Commander Amy Walsh. "Look at their formation. It is sloppy. Their approach is predictable. They have not faced anyone who fights back in a very long time." "Good," Amy replied with a cold smile. "Let's teach them what real resistance looks like." The Council's representatives watched from their observation decks as the human fleet moved into position. The ships moved with perfect precision. Every vessel took exactly the right place in a formation that looked almost mathematical in its perfection. Point defense systems activated, creating overlapping fields of fire that covered every angle. Electronic warfare equipment started broadcasting, filling space with jamming signals and fake targets. Then the Devourers arrived. Their ships poured into the system like insects swarming from a hive. The vessels were dark and organic-looking, covered with pulsing bioluminescent lights. They moved with no formation, no tactics except overwhelming numbers. They had never needed tactics before. They always won through sheer mass. The Council's military observers expected the human fleet to retreat. They thought the humans would use their speed to strike quickly and then run away. Hit-and-run tactics were the only logical response to such numbers. Instead, the battleships held their position. They turned their heavily armored fronts toward the enemy and waited. "All ships," Admiral Lisa Morgan's voice rang out across the fleet communication channel. "Weapons free. Show them what Earth builds when we are afraid." The galaxy learned something new that day. They learned what human warfare really meant. The Devourer vanguard approached in a massive wave. 3,000 ships came first, intending to overwhelm the defenders through pure numbers. They had done this 1,000,000 times before across 1,000 different galaxies. It always worked. Resistance always collapsed under the weight of their attack. The human fleet opened fire at maximum range. The railguns fired first. These weapons used magnetic acceleration to shoot tungsten slugs at incredible speeds. Each projectile carried as much kinetic energy as a small nuclear bomb. The EDS Retribution's main battery alone fired 60 slugs every second. Multiply that by 12 battleships and the effect was devastating. Devourer ships simply disappeared. The tungsten projectiles punched through their organic hulls like bullets through paper. The kinetic energy transfer converted solid matter into superheated plasma. Entire ships exploded from the inside out, vaporized in an instant. The Devourers tried to adapt. They spread their formation wider to reduce casualties. It did not help. The human cruisers launched their missiles. Hundreds of missiles streaked across space, each one equipped with terminal guidance systems and nuclear warheads. They weaved through enemy point defense fire with computerized precision and found their targets. The Council observers watched in horrified fascination. They had never seen warfare like this. The humans were not trying to disable enemy ships. They were not trying to force a surrender. They were trying to obliterate every single enemy vessel as efficiently as possible. "They fight like machines," Vexithar whispered. "Cold, calculated, no mercy." "Yes," replied General Kyle Martinez, who had come with the fleet. "That is generally how war works, Ambassador. You fight to win." The Devourer fleet pressed forward despite horrible casualties. They had never retreated before and did not know how. They closed to medium range, preparing to launch their boarding pods and bioweapons. These tactics had conquered countless civilizations before. The human destroyers activated their close-in weapon systems. Rotary cannons spun up to full speed, creating walls of depleted uranium shells. Point defense lasers carved burning lines through space, vaporizing anything that got close. Nothing got through the defensive screen. Captain Linda Carter commanded the destroyer EDS Defiant. She watched her tactical display with satisfaction. The enemy was behaving exactly as predicted. They bunched up when they pressed an attack, making themselves vulnerable. "They are predictable," Linda said to her executive officer, Lieutenant Greg Phillips. "Prepare the Nova charges." Greg looked uncertain. "Ma'am, those weapons are rated for planetary defense only. Using them in space combat has never been tested." "This is planetary defense," Linda replied calmly. "We are defending planets. Fire on my mark." The Nova charges were humanity's solution to asteroid threats. They were fusion warheads with yields measured in gigatons. 12 of them detonated simultaneously in the heart of the Devourer formation. Space itself seemed to tear apart. The fusion reactions created temporary stars. Light and radiation washed over hundreds of enemy ships. Organic matter vaporized instantly. The Devourer formation collapsed into chaos. All ships, advance, Admiral Lisa Morgan ordered. Do not give them time to recover. The human fleet surged forward. The battleships pushed into the gaps created by the nova charges. Their secondary batteries opened fire, plasma cannons superheating anything within range. The cruisers followed, their electronic warfare suites causing havoc with enemy coordination. Devourer ships started firing on each other, their communications jammed and scrambled. The battle raged for hours. When it finally ended, over 4,000 Devourer ships were destroyed. The survivors fled in disorder, abandoning the attack completely. The council representatives sat in stunned silence. They had just watched humanity wage war with terrifying efficiency. They finally understood why humans still built weapons. The Galactic Council had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. 12 ancient alien races sat together in a massive space station and made decisions for everyone in the galaxy. They believed they were wise and peaceful. They had not fought a real war in 3,000 years. Their spaceships were beautiful but weak. Their weapons were designed to scare enemies, not to kill them. War was something from the past, something primitive species did before they learned better ways. When humans first traveled beyond their own solar system, the Council noticed, they sent important representatives to Earth to welcome the new species. The aliens expected humans to be grateful and impressed. They expected humans to immediately agree to follow all the Council's rules. That is what every other species had done for thousands of years. Instead, the aliens found themselves surrounded by Earth's defensive weapons. Human diplomats asked many suspicious questions. They refused to sign anything without reading every detail carefully. The Council representatives were confused and annoyed. No species had ever acted this way before. Commander Jake Harrison led the human side of the negotiations. He was a tall man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He had spent 30 years in Earth's military and trusted nobody easily. When the alien ambassador tried to rush the talks, Jake simply said no. When they offered treaties that seemed too good to be true, Jake had lawyers examine every word. The aliens were not used to this treatment. The negotiations took 6 long months. Finally, the Council agreed to let humans join, but with limits. Humans could not leave their solar system without permission. They had to prove they were civilized first. The Council's main ambassador was a tall creature made of living crystal named Vexthar. He delivered the decision with barely hidden contempt. Your species is young and violent, Vexthar told the human delegation. His voice sounded like wind chimes. You still build weapons and maintain armies. You have not learned peace yet. In time, you will understand that war is obsolete. Admiral Lisa Morgan represented Earth at that meeting. She was a woman in her 50s with dark skin and calm eyes. She had commanded ships during Earth's last civil war and knew what real combat meant. She smiled politely at the alien's words. We understand peace very well, Ambassador, Lisa said quietly. We also understand that peace only exists when you are strong enough to defend it. The Council members dismissed her comment as primitive thinking. They believed humans would learn eventually. They believed all species became peaceful once they joined the galactic community. They were wrong about that, but they would not learn the truth for 2 more years. When the message came, it came everywhere at once. Every communication device in the galaxy received it simultaneously. The message overrode every system, every network, every channel. It was only audio, but the voice that spoke made every species feel cold fear. We are the Devourers, the voice said. It sounded like grinding metal and screaming winds. We have consumed 1,000 galaxies. Your weapons mean nothing. Your resistance is meaningless. We will arrive in 1 month. Prepare to die. Then the message ended. The Galactic Council met immediately. Panic filled their chambers. The oldest species searched their historical records and found stories they had thought were myths. The Devourers were real. They had destroyed countless civilizations across multiple galaxies. They ate everything and left nothing behind. The stories said they were unstoppable. The Council's military advisors examined their fleet and felt despair. Their ships were designed for parades and ceremonies, not combat. Their shields could deflect small asteroids, but nothing more. Their weapons were made to disable enemy ships, not destroy them. They had no soldiers, no marines, no one trained to actually fight. 3,000 years of peace had left them defenseless. The council argued for days. Some wanted to surrender immediately. Others wanted to flee to distant stars. A few suggested trying to negotiate. Finally, in desperation, someone made an unusual suggestion. They should ask the humans for help. Many council members rejected this idea immediately. Humans were primitive. Humans were violent. Humans were barely civilized. But as the days passed and no other options appeared, the idea gained support. Finally, the council voted to send a message to Earth. The transmission reached Earth 3 days later. Admiral Lisa Morgan read it in her office overlooking the Pacific Ocean. She read it twice to make sure she understood correctly. Then she called an emergency meeting of Earth's top military leaders. "They want our help," Lisa said to the assembled generals and admirals. "The same council that called us barbarians. The same council that locked us in our own solar system. They are begging us to send our warships to save them." General Kyle Martinez commanded Earth's Space Marines. He was a stocky man with scars on his face from the Civil War. He laughed when he heard the news. "Do we even have ships that can reach their core worlds in time?" "The council is offering access to their jump gates," Lisa explained. "They will let our military travel anywhere we need to go. They are truly desperate." Captain Nicole Stevens commanded one of Earth's newest battleships. She was young for her rank, only 35, but brilliant. "What about defending Earth? If we send our fleet away, we leave our home unprotected." "The Devourers will come here eventually," Lisa said. "If the council falls, Earth is next on the list. Better to fight them far from home than to wait for them here." The debate continued for hours. Some leaders wanted to refuse, to let the council face the consequences of their arrogance. Others wanted to help immediately. Finally, they reached a decision. Earth would answer the call. They would send a fleet to help defend the council. Lisa sent a message back to the council. She told them Earth would send military assistance. The council was relieved. They expected maybe 10 or 20 human ships. They thought humans would send a small task force, enough to help but not enough to make much difference. The council had no idea what was coming. Earth's military had learned hard lessons during the Civil War. Millions had died. Cities had burned. The survivors had sworn to never be weak again. They had built weapons that could crack planets. They had designed ships that could survive anything. They had trained soldiers who never quit. Now they would show the galaxy what humanity meant by military force. Admiral Lisa Morgan stood in the command center and watched as Earth's fleet prepared to depart. 12 massive battleships, each one bristling with weapons. 40 cruisers built for speed and firepower. 70 destroyers designed to hunt and kill. Over 200 support ships carrying ammunition, fuel, and supplies. It was enough firepower to conquer a dozen star systems. Earth was sending it all to save aliens who had treated them with contempt. "Let's go show them what humans do," Lisa said quietly. "Let's remind the galaxy that peace has guardians now." The fleet activated their engines and headed for the jump gate. Behind them, Earth watched and waited. Ahead of them, the council prepared to see something they had never imagined. They were about to learn what human warfare really meant.